Sedition acts. Those were acts that were made that you could get jailed if you said negative comments. You heard on the movie, negative comments about the government. And the newspaper, the media, are the guys that were really getting hammered on that. Well, what Jefferson did is he suspended the Alien and Sedition Acts, and he released all those people that had been jailed under that law. It was a bad law anyway. Ruined Adams' presidency, by the way. And he still wanted to get rid of these partisan Federalist judges that were around the country, so he started a campaign of impeachment. Jefferson started a campaign of impeachment. Now, in order to be impeached, you have to be accused of high crimes and misdemeanors. Okay? So he goes on this impeachment witch hunt, so to speak. And one judge in one federal district court was accused of being mentally unbalanced. And so the House of Representatives impeached this fellow, and the Senate convicted him. He was gone. His high crimes and misdemeanors, or he was mentally unbalanced. That's probably a good reason to impeach a federal judge, wouldn't it? So Jefferson starts this impeachment campaign. He finds this one judge in this federal district. He's impeached by the House for being mentally unbalanced. They impeach him. They accuse him of high crimes and misdemeanors. The Senate votes to remove him. Now, Jefferson went after a Supreme Court justice by the name of Samuel Tjlc, and actually talked the House into impeaching him. So he was impeached. So Supreme Court Justice Samuel Tjlc was impeached by the House. And he's going to have to go through a review at the Senate, and then they're going to have to vote whether he committed high crimes and misdemeanors, right? Well, surprisingly to Jefferson, even though the Republican House of Representatives impeached Supreme Court Justice Samuel Tjlc, the Senate acquitted him after finding no evidence of high crimes. So that didn't work very well for Jefferson. Okay? Well, except for those two cases in which they impeached the federal judge and convicted the federal judge of being mentally unbalanced, and the failure to convict the other Supreme Court justice, this impeachment campaign that Jefferson put on was pretty much a failure. But what might it accomplish? If you knew Jefferson was going to go out after you and you were a Federalist judge, what might you do? In the terms of my mother, watch your P's and Q's a little bit better. Not be so partisan. Because if you don't do a good job as a federal judge, as a Federalist, you could bet that Jefferson was coming after you, right? So even though it didn't have a lot of success, the threat of impeachment did cause many federal judges to be more cautious and less partisan in their decisions. Because are you supposed to be nonpartisan when you decide in the Supreme Court? Should you be going along the lines of Republicans and Democrats? No, that's a big campaign issue in this last campaign we just went through. I think one of the reasons Trump won also is we're going to have a lot of Supreme Court justices that are going to need to be replaced during the next 4 years. They're getting older. They're on there till life. And they think there might be up to 3 Supreme Court justices that will be replaced in the next 4 years. So a lot of Republicans around this country wanted Republican Supreme Court justices to be appointed. Is that going to happen when Hillary Clinton is president? No. So I'm telling you, I think that had a big impact on this election, was the number of Supreme Court justices that were going to be appointed. And it doesn't go by party, it goes by what? Philosophy. Republicans are considered, C word, conservative, and Democrats are considered liberal. So people who wanted conservative judges on the Supreme Court voted for Trump. I'm telling you, that was a big impact, especially in the bigger states with a lot of electoral votes. Big campaign. Okay, that'll take us to another election, the election of 1804. Okay, now, this was really not much of a much of an election, but the result of it and what happened was key to somebody's life. So, in the presidential election of 1804, Jefferson's going to run for re-election. He's the incumbent. So he'll be the Republican nominee for president. And he's going to run against a familiar name, Federalist Charles Pinckney. Charles Pinckney. Now Jefferson's going to change his vice presidential candidate because Aaron Burr is not going to be available. Okay? And so Jefferson's going to change to George Clinton as his vice presidential running mate. Why? Because Aaron Burr has made the decision to try to run for governor of New York instead. He didn't like the vice presidency that much, didn't do that much, and he thought it would be better in his political future to run for governor of New York. So because Aaron Burr, the vice president, is going to run to be governor of New York, try that gig, Jefferson changes vice presidential candidates in 1804 to George Clinton. Well, Jefferson and Clinton just, cleaned house in this election. Pinckney only won 2 states, Delaware and Connecticut, and Jefferson won the rest. So it was a landslide victory, and Thomas Jefferson is re-elected president. Matter of fact, it was the largest margin of victory in American history up to that time, even more than when Washington ran, although he had a different process. But in a regular, normal election, this was the largest margin of victory ever, when there were 2 candidates actually running. Okay? And you remember those first elections, you voted for president, the top vote getter, so it wasn't really considered. Now, a little disappointed in somebody in this class. A little disappointed in Ivan. And the reason is because I'm not sure he's paying attention. So you know what I'm doing? We're going to be here Friday? Challenging you to a duel on Thursday. I'm going to tell you. But you better know what one is first. You and I, me and you, going first. Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr. And we'll explain to you what he's just got himself into, because I'm challenging him to a duel. Okay? Well, let me tell you how you get into a duel, Ivan. It's going to take us to our next topic.
I get it now.
Me and you, Thursday.
We said Friday.
Well, know what? We got a test Thursday. You and I, Monday. Monday, coming back from Thanksgiving. You and I. Right out. No, coming back before Thanksgiving vacation. Next Monday. Week from today, you and I. Right out there. Okay, here we go. As I mentioned, I'll remind you. As I mentioned, Aaron Burr decided to give up the vice presidency and campaign for governor of New York rather than the vice presidency in 1804. Well, Alexander Hamilton, who was no fan of Aaron Burr, urged fellow Federalists to vote against Burr in that gubernatorial election. Okay? So, who campaigns against Burr as he's trying to run for governor of New York? Alexander Hamilton. Well, guess what? Burr eventually loses. And who does he blame for his defeat? Who's he blame? Why would he blame Jefferson? Who's he blame? Well, sure, he blames Alexander Hamilton. Because Alexander Hamilton went out and urged everyone to vote against Burr, especially his Federalist friends. And Burr gets beat, and he's mad. And he blames Alexander Hamilton. And he's so mad, he demands an apology from Hamilton for uncomplimentary remarks that Hamilton made about him during the campaign. You're going to apologize to me publicly, Perez, for those uncomplimentary remarks you made about me in the campaign. And you're going to tell me what?
No.
No! I'm not apologizing to you. Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm challenging you to a duel. This is where it starts, right here. Now, you're no wimp, so I assume you're going to what? My challenge. Ivan's accepting it. You heard it right here. He's accepting my challenge. And so you know what we're going to do? We're going to meet at the start of the period, 1 week from today. Right on. Now I'm going to tell you what happened in this deal. So on July 11th, 1804, Hamilton and Burr meet for the duel. July 11th, 1804. The choice of weapons were made, pistols. The two men were placed back to back. And they were given a certain number of paces to take before they turned toward each other and fired their pistols. Now there's some rules in a duel. I want you to pay attention, because Pistol Pete DeZanus is going to be the moderator of this thing. Now let me tell you how it works. I'm choosing pistols, right? Or I'm not choosing pistols, he chooses pistols. But I'm choosing whipped cream pies. You get to choose the number of paces. How many is it going to be, considering you got a bad arm here? 10 paces. Okay, you got this? Next Monday, I'm choosing whipped cream pies, 10 paces. Anyway, the rules of the duel are as follows. For this and for you and I, big boy, is we're going back to back. And when we get to 10, we turn. Now, if I fire first and hit you or miss you, depending on your status, I still have to stand and allow you to fire. So you can figure your strategy on that, Ivan. You're going to go throw first and try to get me before I get you, or you're going to let me fire first, and then I'm going to have to stand there if I miss, or if you're dead, you have no shot, you're done with the deal, right? That's how it works. So we're doing that next Monday. Be prepared. So, both men were placed back to back and given a number of paces to take before turning toward each other and firing their pistols. At the signal to fire, which will be you, Burr raised his pistol, took aim, and fired. Hamilton, who made no attempt to fire at Burr, fell mortally wounded and died shortly afterwards. Think about that in your strategy, Mr. Perez. He who hesitates is lost. You want to take that first shot and go at the same time? You're going to shoot at me. I'm going to say you're a bad shot. You're going to have to stand right there while I plaster one right in your face. How are you going to do it, Chuck? You got a week to think about it. Okay? In this case, Burr doesn't mess around. At the sign to fire, he turns, fires his pistol. Hamilton made no effort. Either he wasn't interested in shooting or he was going to wait. I don't know. But unfortunately for him, when Burr hit him, he fell mortally wounded and died shortly afterwards. That's how we lost Alexander Hamilton. Okay? So you think about your strategy, Ivan. Now, it didn't go over very well, and Burr's life changed forever. For example, late in 1806, now this is a couple years after this happened, Burr was involved in some vague schemes against the government. Vague schemes. Which tells you what? Somebody wasn't happy with him, right? And they arrested him and charged him with treason. When you get charged with treason, the point at the time, who's going to make the decision whether you're guilty or not at this time in history? John Marshall. So he was arrested and charged with treason, and then Supreme Court Justice John Marshall acquitted him. But basically he was forced to move to Europe. He was a disgrace here for killing Alexander Hamilton. So they tried to get some trumped up charges on him to convict him of treason. Supreme Court Chief Justice John Marshall acquitted Burr, but he moved to Europe. He later returned to New York, but basically just died under a shadow of disapproval. He was never ever regarded worth a darn since. Now, we're going to quit lecturing today, but we're going to talk about this duel a little bit. Now remember, I chose whipped cream pies. You chose the paces. And how many did you choose?
10.
10. So what's going to happen is this going to happen next Monday.